I'm going to go over the 3 stages of winning back your ex, and I'm going to give you the 3 things not to do in each stage. The thing that I see people repeatedly do that sabotages and cripples their chances and stops it from working. When you're going through rejection, everything about you is going to tell you everything that you don't want to hear, everything that is the scariest to believe. First thing you need to do is take a deep breath and realize not to trust how you feel. There's a difference in something being hopeless and something being hopeless in the moment. In most breakups, especially if you've already tried to fight, you've already tried to reason, you've already tried to talk that person out of it, you've done the begging, the pleading, and the chasing, then you've probably got this sense of being overwhelmed with hopelessness, right? There is a difference in hopeless right now and hopeless forever. Right now, you might have chased and pursued them to the point that both of you are convinced they're never coming back to you. But that's in the moment. So one of the things you need to stop and do is not trust what you feel. Don't trust what you think. Don't trust what you feel. Don't trust the instinct that's going to tell you that if you don't fight for this relationship now, they're never coming back. Logic and fear are not your friends. My mentor, Joe Beam, used to say this all the time, and it's a really good rule to live by when you're in the moment that you're in right now dealing with a breakup. Feelings can be so powerful. They can be so real. They convince you that they're true. Right now, you're going to have very strong feelings telling you that it's over. If you chased, if you begged, if you pleaded, then you've just reinforced to them, you've given them the overwhelming emotional reassurance of your presence that they feel stronger than ever, saying, now I'm more sure. They might have started off the breakup saying, I'm not sure that I want this, I just need some time, I just think we need some space. And then you chased and pleaded and begged until you gave them so much emotional reassurance of your presence, you basically promised them you're not going anywhere. So now they feel very emotionally strong and confident in telling you they don't want to be with you. That's an addictive feeling, that feeling of strength, that feeling of new stage, that feeling of I'm the one ending it, this relief, this enthusiasm for the new stage of life kicks in. And by chasing and begging, you've just reinforced that even if they continue with the breakup, you're not going anywhere. It's the house and the porch metaphor. You just let them know that even though they're breaking up with you, I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm on your porch. I'm knocking on the door. I'm looking through the window. I'm reminding you of all the good times. I'm reminding you that you just promised me that you'd love me forever just 2 weeks ago while we were on vacation. We were engaged not long ago. So you try to reason, you try to logic, you try to pull them back. Logic and fear are not your friends right now. Don't trust what you feel. Don't try to dive into overanalyzing it. That's the other instinctive thing to do. Instinctively, we want to fight for them. Instinctively, we want to analyze our feelings until we come up with this master strategy. That's a lot of times why people reach out to a relationship coach. This might be why you're watching a video about how to get your ex back. You're trying to come up with a master strategy. And you want to do it now because logic's telling you if you don't do something quick, the longer it goes, the more time that goes by, the further away they're getting. That's not necessarily true at all. But your panic will tell you to do something now. Your panic will make you strategize right now. And the more you chase, to you it feels like love. To you it feels like revelations of everything that you got wrong. To you, it seems like these epiphanies of why you realize what you could have done better and how the relationship could be so fantastic if they just understood what you understood now. If you can just remind them of how great the two of you were before, you can pull them back, and you need to pull them back quickly. But to you, that loyalty, that insight, and even the framing of I'm fighting for our love, what you don't realize is that what that's accidentally projecting is desperation. Desperation is not attractive. Even if you're convinced that you caused the breakup, so you think your endless pursuit and you asking them to forgive you and you apologizing and articulating all the things that you realize you got wrong right now, you might think that that's your penance. That's how you prove that you really do understand why they're breaking up with you. That's how you earn their second chance. But when you over-apologize, even from sincere insights, again, what you're projecting is neediness, clinginess, desperation. If you keep doing it, it projects weakness. If you keep doing it beyond that, it projects the really painful words like pathetic. Now, they might not tell you that with their words, but they'll convey that through their less and less willingness to have any interaction with you. Understand the difference between hopeless for now and hopeless long term. Don't trust fear, don't trust logic. Don't give in to this idea that you need to fight for the relationship in the moment that projects weakness, not loyalty, not commitment. It doesn't remind them that the two of you belong together. It accidentally reminds them that maybe they've outgrown you, and that the gap between what you feel for them and what they feel for you is so off balance that you're just not a good fit anymore. So you're accidentally working against yourself. And again, I've mentioned this before in other videos, but it can be a helpful little mental exercise to do. Imagine you're breaking up with somebody. Imagine they beg and plead and chase. That's going to flatter you. That's going to increase your pity, your sympathy, and your guilt. But pity, sympathy, and guilt don't drive attraction up. They drain attraction. If you've ever broken up with somebody and they pleaded with you not to do it, you might have found it flattering, but you didn't find it attractive. It didn't reignite this desire and this passion. Desire and passion are usually connected with people that we think we're lucky to be with. It's really hard to feel like they're lucky to be with you when you're begging and pleading and telling them that you'll be here forever if they ever change their mind to let you know, and that you're convinced they're the only love of your life. It's really hard to feel lucky about being with somebody who keeps telling you how lucky they are to have a second chance with you. So don't trust fear, don't trust logic, don't trust that feeling of hopelessness. As a matter of fact, try to take a deep breath and remember how they saw you when they were first attracted to you. You can't go back in time. You can re-trigger limerance. People think that you can't. You can. It's just harder to do it when you're going through a breakup because you're emotionally overwhelmed. Because you're emotionally overwhelmed, your instincts, your fight or flight instinct have kicked in, except you don't want to fight. You just want to fight for the relationship. So in that moment, it's really easy when you're flooded with pain, when you're flooded with fear, to forget the most attractive version of you. The most attractive version of you was the version of you that they fell in love with. I doubt seriously that when they went on the first date with you and that limerence was really starting to kick in and build up, I doubt that you just let them know that you were the luckiest person in the world. I doubt that you begged. I doubt that you pleaded. I bet you carried yourself with some charisma. I bet you carried yourself with some confidence. I bet you actually had a stronger version of yourself that you were projecting while they were falling for you, because that's how limerence works. Two people feel really lucky to be with each other. It's not one person falling all over themselves to do everything and become everything that they can. Limerence happens when two people feel lucky to be with each other, which is possible. It's really hard to get back to that balance. It's really hard to re-trigger attraction when you're not projecting the number one thing that people are attracted to. Women, they've shown in study after study, the number one attractive quality that a man can project is a sense of dominance. Not dominance over the woman, dominance over life. Highly successful, dominance compared to the average person, somebody that stands out from the crowd. It's really hard to project dominance and strength and this idea that you're unshakable when you're repeatedly telling them how shaken you are, when you're repeatedly telling them that you can't live without them, when you're repeatedly telling them how lucky you would be if they just gave you one more chance. So stop and try to remember the version of yourself that you were when they fell for you in the first place. It might be really uncomfortable for you because some people just think being authentic, being sincere is always showing what you're feeling, especially with the person you love. I've had a lot of clients say, I don't want to do no contact. I'm hurting and I want them to know I'm hurting. I want them to know I'm fighting for the relationship. And if I lose them, at least I lost them being honest. Well, my answer to that is that's not you being honest. That's you showing the weakest, scaredest, most desperate version of you, calling it honest because in the moment, that's how you feel. But how you feel in the moment isn't actually the most authentic version of you. Like the examples I gave, I'm ADHD, so I have a temper. If somebody cuts me off in traffic, my temper automatically spikes. If somebody starts getting road rage with me, my temper automatically spikes. But I don't react on that. My outside, I don't project on the outside what I feel on the inside, or I'd go to jail. Does that make me weak? Does that make me a phony? Or does that actually make me disciplined? Does that make me mature? Does that give me some wisdom because I know when to let my emotions take the lead? And when I know how to take a step back, take a deep breath, and remember how to project the wisest, strongest version of me. I protect the kids in my car. I protect my wife in the car over my ego, over my instinct to fight. That doesn't make me weak. That doesn't make me a fake. That makes me wise. That's mature. That's how you're supposed to act. So when you're going through a breakup, when you're in this overwhelming pain, there's a part of you that's going to say, I at least want to be sincere. I want to be authentic. I want to be the real me. And the real me wants to remind them, wants to fight for them, wants to convince them that we belong together. Don't do that. You're repeatedly projecting the weakest, the most unattractive, the most inaccurate version of who you are. That's the accurate version of who you are in pain. That's not the same thing as the most accurate version of you. That's not the version of you they fell in love with. And run it through your mind. Again, imagine you're breaking up with somebody and they're begging and pleading. That's not going to drive up attraction. But now imagine that you're breaking up with somebody and they said, well, truthfully, I was about to break up with you too. There's somebody at work. There's somebody that reached out to me that I have to admit I kind of felt something for, and I just didn't think it was right for us to stay together. So I was going to break up with you tonight. Whether you want to admit it or not, human behavior is built on a sense of ego, a sense of worth. If you were going to break up with somebody and they responded with strength, that's the best chance they have at actually re-sparking attraction. If somebody told you, well, I was going to break up with you too. All right, well, hey, I'm glad we're going to do this. You take care of yourself. I'm going to go call that other person. That reaction, as illogical as it sounds, would make you go, wait a minute, what do you mean you've been talking to somebody else? What do you mean that there's somebody else? It would actually kind of make you second guess the decision to walk away from them, because romantic attraction, human instincts aren't based on logic. They're based on a sense of worth. They're based on fear of loss, fear of regret, fear of making the wrong decision, fear of walking away from somebody that proves to be a better version of themselves after you leave, and now you have to spend the rest of your life regretting the fact that you made the wrong choice to walk away from them. Don't trust your instincts. Don't trust what fear and logic will tell you. Stop fighting for the relationship. Remember the principles of attraction, not the fear of the moment. The principles of attraction are scarcity and projecting strength, reignite attraction, and cause people to second guess decisions more than anything. Now, it's really hard to project strength while you're locked on to that person. So on social media, stop following them. Stop checking on them. Your instinct will tell you the best thing to do is find out who they're talking to, how serious it is, how long have they been talking. Let me find out as much information as I can get. The most information gives me the best strategy. The best strategy gives me the most likelihood of winning them back. It seems like such a logical path, but it completely doesn't work because, again, attraction isn't based on logic. So you start getting hyper fixated. You collect all the information. Who are they talking to? Are they talking to anybody? How long has it been going on? How serious is it? What does my competition look like? The more you're focused on them, the more you're handicapping yourself. It's like you're putting your ankles in chains and you're about to run a sprint. It's not going to work. You're so hyper-focused on them, you can't remember the version of you that they found attractive. You can't project strength because you're mentally and emotionally locked on them. And it's like an empathy vision. When you're in love with somebody, especially if they just broke up with you, whether you know it or not, there's a part of you seeing yourself through their eyes. The person that knows you best just rejected you. So the more you're focused on them, you're reinforcing the idea that you're rejectable. You're reinforcing the idea that you're unwantable. Now, how hard is it to project strength and remember you at your best when you're constantly looking at a source that's devaluing you? It's a constant flow of you're not worthy, you're not good, you're too broken. I know you really well, and the person that knows you best decided that I can do better. So it's really hard to remember your sense of self-worth when you're going by the valuation of a person that's fallen out of limerance with you. And if they're in limerance with somebody else, part of being in limerance, if they are falling for somebody else, it will go in and rewire your mind. So they won't remember the best times with you. They won't really remember how they felt with you. When you're in limerance with somebody in the present, it devalues the limerance that you had with somebody in the past. Meanwhile, if you're the one that's been broken up with, that limerance that you felt before comes roaring back to life. And it's magnified by the sense and the fear of losing them. So you're more aware. You're lost in the limerence. You're lost in the love. You have undeniable evidence of how much the two of you belong together. Meanwhile, while you're having it magnified, their value is being magnified to you. Your sense of importance, the real history of the relationship, the real sense of connection that the two of you had is being lessened in them by virtue of the fact that they're now in limerence with a new person. New limerance overrides old limerance. So you're not even in a fair fight. So stop chasing, stop looking, stop trusting your instincts. Refocus on yourself. Make a long list of the drawbacks, of the flaws, of the things about them that hurt you, of the moments when they devalued you, the moments and the flaws in the relationship that weren't good. You have to take an active part in un-brainwashing yourself. That dark limerance will absolutely convince you that they're irreplaceable, that something about you is broken, and if you don't fight to get them back now, you'll never know joy again. Again, trust that those feelings are real, but you have to decide that they're not true. Don't trust what you feel. Play an active role in reminding yourself who you are and counterbalancing that compulsion. Take an active part in refusing to believe what you feel about them. Your mind, your heart, your memories, everything will tell you they're the only one for you. You have to actively take control of your thoughts and say they're not. If they were the perfect person for me, we'd still be together. If they were the perfect person for me, they wouldn't be going through this right now. Now, they might be a good match for me and I might want them back, but stop telling yourself that they're the love of your life if the love of your life just discarded you. That's a contradiction. Remind yourself of those truths. Remind yourself, if you want a real chance to get them back, look at it this way. A lot of people will say this, I would do anything to get them back. Okay, so I'll give you the answer to that challenge. You'd do anything to get them back? All right, here's the thing to do. Prove to yourself and them that you don't need them. Love isn't need. If you need them to be happy, if you need them to live, if you need them to have success, if you need them to have a purpose, that's not love, that's worship. Worship is not attractive. It's flattering, but it's not attractive. So if you really want them back and you're willing to do anything to get them back, here's the challenge I give you. Prove to yourself and to them that as much as you love them, you don't need them. That is by far your best chance to re-attract them. So the number one thing that people do wrong to sabotage themselves in this first stage is that they'll do no contact and really try to do their best to project strength. But behind the scenes, they're still looking at their Facebook. They're still finding clever little ways to check on their Venmo, their Spotify. They're going through friends. They're going through family. They're in that evidence and information collection phase. And it keeps them mentally and emotionally more locked, more crippled, and more limited than they know. Now they'll tell themselves, no, I've been doing no contact really well. They have no idea that I'm still crying myself to sleep every night. They have no idea that I spend 3 hours online doing all this internet investigation, sleuthing and tracking and putting everything together. Whether you know it or not, it's hurting you. So stop doing it. Trust me when I say stop doing it. Number 2, the attraction phase. And this works even if they broke up with you to be with somebody else. As a matter of fact, it's even more important if your ex has started dating somebody else. The urge to compete, the compulsion to compete with that person is going to be really strong. It's even more imperative that you don't give in to that instinct. While you're fighting to compete with that new person, it's not a fair fight. New limerance always trumps old limerance, and you're romanticizing their relationship. You're validating the worth of your ex. She's going to feel, or he's going to feel, emboldened. They're going to feel this enthusiasm for life. They get the ego stroke of your pursuit, and you make it impossible for them to have a sense of loss from you. You can't regret losing somebody that keeps reminding you you haven't lost them. So this is a stage that might feel really uncomfortable, especially if you're a humble person. But remind yourself of your worth. Just like I told you to make a list about their drawbacks, make a list about the things about you that are exceptional. Right now, your emotions, your memory, everything about you, your logic is going to tell you something's wrong with you. Something's broken. Something about you is not good enough. If you were good enough, the person that you love so much would still love you enough at least to stay with you. They're not even willing to stay. They're not even willing to work it out. So how unworthy must you be for the person that's supposed to love you the most to walk away from you and happily, enthusiastically dive into another relationship, or not even need another relationship, just to have a desire to get out of one with you? So you can't trust what you're feeling. So you have to take an active role in reminding yourself of your worth, of your value. So literally write down the things about you that are exceptional, the moments in your life that stood out, the things about you that you've always admired. It's going to feel a little bit childish, but you really need to take an active role in building up your self-worth. Because whether you know it or not, if you've had a meaningful, significant, intimate relationship with somebody and they just rejected you, instinctively, it kind of makes you, it's a punch. It can rattle your past, your present, and your future. The past with them, you don't trust because they ended up walking away from you. The present, you feel rejected. The future seems so dark because the person you love just walked away. So it's like the whole universe is going to hit you like a wave to convince you that you're just not worth it. And if you're not worth it, then what's the point? If you're not worth it, that's why they're not coming back. So you're just any kind of excitement. Depression hits, and depression is a paralytic. So you have to take an active role in reminding yourself of your worth despite how you're going to feel in the moment. Find the things about you. And this is a key part. Be honest with yourself that you're doing this because you want another chance with your ex. What some people will do to sabotage themselves is say, I'm just going to focus on me. I don't need them. I don't need them. I don't want them. Screw them. That's what your family and friends will say, by the way. If somebody could treat you like this, you don't need to be with them anyway. You deserve better than this. And hey, they're probably right. But the idea that they're encouraging this idea of never going back, never giving them another try, adds to that feeling of hopelessness. Hopelessness is a depressing thought. Hopelessness is a depressing, inducing feeling. Depression is a paralytic. It's really hard to project that strength, to remember your value, and to live like you're that person that's the best, most attractive version of yourself when you're so depressed that you can't get off the couch. When you're in so much pain that you're just kind of wrapped up in a blanket, shaking on the couch, watching New Girl or Dirty Dancing, and over again, just trying to find some way to pull out of this pit, to crawl out of this misery. So give yourself the energy and the strength that you need from being honest with yourself. Tell yourself, you don't have to tell your family and friends, tell yourself, I want another chance. Look, it might be a narcissist, it might be a manipulator, it might be an unhealthy relationship, but me telling you that isn't actually going to help pull you out of that paralyzing pit of despair. Sometimes just be honest with yourself and say, if there's even a small chance, I want the small chance. Maybe they'll go get therapy. Maybe they'll go get help. Or maybe I caused the breakup, and I really want another chance because I want to make up for what I got wrong. Give yourself the benefit of that hope. One of the things you're going to lie to yourself about is you're going to say it's hopeless. They're never coming back. I know because I chased, I begged, and I pleaded. So now I'm confident they're never coming back. I think I ruined it. Again, there's hopeless in the moment. That doesn't make it hopeless. And if the truth is, if I tell you right now, it's 100% guarantee that if you follow this plan, they're coming back. If you have a brain, you know I'm lying to you. I can't possibly know it's 100% guarantee. By the same token, you can't know it's 100% guarantee they're not coming back. Your fear will tell you it's not going to happen. Your logic will tell you it's not going to happen. But I can promise you there have been millions of couples in situations worse than yours that have gotten back together. And you need that little bit of hope. You need that little bit of truth just to have that spark of energy. Your mind will kind of keep you locked in a paralyzing depression if you really keep reminding yourself how hopeless it is. But if you tell yourself there's a chance, and this is my plan, I'm going to remind myself who I am. I'm going to stop focusing on them. I'm going to build back my sense of self-worth. I'm going to remember the most attractive, strongest version of me that they fell in love with. I'm going to build on that while I'm not hyper fixated on that. That is a significant chance. If you had a meaningful, mostly positive relationship with your ex, then you already know that you have all the ingredients to have that chemistry. I can prove that you can pull them back because you attracted them in the first place. That means you probably have the base personality and characteristics to have the kind of chemistry that can pull them back. So I'm not trying to give you false hope. I'm just trying to give you realistic hope. But when you deny all hope, it's a paralyzing, sad, despair-inducing feeling. And it's really hard to remind yourself or them of the loss of the relationship, to remind them of the things about you that they were attracted to reignite that spark if you're lost, hopeless, in despair and broken. So let yourself have that hope. I'm not trying to tell you that you have to have an absolute belief that it's definitely going to happen. As a matter of fact, a lot of clients I have that manifest and really believe in manifestation, they're the ones that suffer the longest, and they tend to go through the most mental and emotional anguish because they're almost in a constant state of denial. I'm not telling you to live like it's an absolute certainty. As a matter of fact, live like I want them to come back if they're the right fit for me. I don't want them to come back because I need them to come back. If I need them to come back, I'm not in the right mental state to hold the relationship when it comes back together. Don't give yourself the time frame either. I'm not a big believer in the 30, the 60, or the 90 days. The more shallow, the younger, the quicker that 30, 60, and 90 days can work. But if it's a meaningful relationship that's gone on for a while, if you've kind of been through the rough spots before, and now this is one of those really significant breakups, I've seen more times it's around that 4 to 6 month mark. And I've seen tons of times where it's been a year or even longer. So don't start watching the clock. As a matter of fact, look at the calendar as, okay, if it's been 3 months, now it's been 4 months. Look at it this way. I've just shown that I'm strong enough to live without them for 4 months. The longer the time goes by, the greater the likelihood that when you are reintroduced at some point, when they start second guessing and wondering why they haven't heard from you, when you give that other relationship time to play out, time for the limerance to wear off, and time for them to wonder why they haven't heard from you in 4 or 5 months, and then they look over and see your social media or talk to other friends and see how much you've been thriving, how much you've rebuilt yourself. You're not only the person that you look like when they fell in love with you the first time, you look like a much improved version of that. You're like the 2.0 version of you. You're thriving. When you do that, you trigger this hyper analysis of, one of the common fears we all have, death and taxes. One of the other things that we're afraid of is that we're going to walk away from the person that we regret losing for the rest of our lives. That person's going to go on to be a success. That person's going to go on to have an exceptional life. Somebody else is going to end up married or committed to this person that I walked away from, living the life I was meant to live. It's a greater likelihood you can trigger that fear when it's been a longer period of time. Think of somebody that you broke up with in your past. Now, let's say you wake up this morning and you see them online and they look better than ever. Their business is thriving. They're living a life. They're going on vacation. They just bought that house. They just look happier. They look more physically attractive. They look like they've conquered the world. Meanwhile, you're where you were. Maybe you're a little bit ahead, but you look at them and think, oh, dear God, that's the one. That fear that we all have comes to life. That's the person. Oh, I was trying so hard to make sure I didn't walk away from the person that I was supposed to be with. That looks like the person I was supposed to be with. That's human nature. You can trigger that in them as much as you're capable of feeling it yourself. So look at that time. Look at no contact. Even when it gets longer, think, okay, good. The longer we go, the more time I have to shock them with how impressive I've become, the more evidence I have to prove to them that even though I begged and pleaded and chased when they broke up with me, I was more than capable of recovering my sense of self-worth and thriving in life. They have to face the potential of living the rest of their lives wondering if they made a mistake. So don't let the 30 or the 60 or the 90 days rattle you. The third thing to do when they come back, and most of the people that fumble no contact, fumble it at this stage. When that person comes back, they didn't listen to what I said in phase 1 or phase 2, and they're still hyper fixated on that person. Yeah, they successfully projected strength. They were in no contact, but they were just white knuckling it. They were still tracking them online. They were still like making, every time that they hearted somebody else's Instagram, they did a deep dive to try to find out who posted that, who that person was. They panicked on every little shift. So now when they come back, that anxiety that's actually been building, because anxiety doesn't necessarily go away with time, especially if we keep feeding the fear. And because you've stayed locked on them, maybe it's 3 or 4 months later, but even when they come back, oh my goodness, you're so relieved. That anxiety that you've been feeling, that fear that you've been living with for so long, it started to drop. This excitement about them reaching out to you goes through the roof, but now you're instantly panicked. Now you have a new anxiety. Oh, they finally reached out to me. I'll get this email all the time. Coach Ken, you were right. It's been 6 months. They just reached out to me. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. What do I do? And look, I'm not taking a shot at people that send me that email. I understand it's a normal human reaction, but it's even more elevated. It's even more anxiety inducing if while you've been in no contact, you've been hyper fixated on them. So now you finally got their attention, but it's like internally you're trembling because you're this close to grabbing the golden prize, and at any moment you're afraid it's going to slip through your fingers. How attractive do you think that makes you? As opposed to somebody that's actually been focused on themselves and their own sense of self-worth and actively telling themselves, like, I might love that person, I might want that person, but I don't need that person. I have a purpose, I have an identity, I have something about my life and my meaning in life that's more important than what that person thinks of me. If they come back, I think we'd have a great relationship. If they came back, I think it would be worth giving it another try. But I don't need that person. Now you can actually maintain and keep that sense of charisma, keep that very thing that re-attracted them back because now it's authentic. But it's scary to do it. One of the challenges that gets in the way of that is we instinctively think if we stop looking, if we stop hyper fixating on that person, if we even let that fear and that hurt and that anxiety get too low, does that mean we're getting over them? And if we get over them, does that mean we really don't have a chance? Because I'm the only one fighting for this relationship. If I stop fixating on them, if I start dating somebody else, if I start entertaining the idea that I can have a happy life without them, won't I have a happy life without them? And now we have no chance. That's not true. It's a lie that you're telling yourself in fear and in panic. The truth is, the more capable you are of walking away, much greater likelihood that they're going to stay when they do re-engage. So I hope this helps. Every situation is different. If I can help, please you can find me at realcoachken.com, and we can kind of put together the right strategy and see what this looks like. What I'm describing can look different to different people, and different situations kind of call for different reactions. So if this has been any help, please give me a like, a share, and a subscribe, and I'll be back again soon. Thanks a lot.